Hello, greetings and salutations, and welcome to Y.A.R.P 83. Today we start the Jim Carrey arc with the
Oh
Truman
no.
Show.
You
And
misspelled Jim Carrey.
I don't know. Fuck it.
what?
It's Jim fucking
James.
Carrey.
Sue
What?
me, motherfucker. I don't
James
care.
Lift.
James Carey.
What?
We all live together.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
we got
together.
James Lift at home.
Oh God.
James Uber.
Oh god. Great start, lads. Absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Amazing. It's fucking
So this movie was dark as shit.
Yeah, I was going to
wow,
say
man.
during.
So like,
Oh.
it's what's known as a cultural touchstone because a lot of media references like stuff like that. Like Jojo's Bizarre
Yeah.
Adventure is a clear example with like a lot of anime. Um, boy, oh boy, the Truman Show has. I've never actually seen the movie. Wyatt,
Really?
invite me to your order. Yeah, no, it. Yeah, I've never seen it, and like it's just like this thing that I've always heard about. I've always like heard about like it's like, oh man, you watch the Truman Show, oh blah blah blah, like and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, like just laughing along with it. I've never seen it, and like it is nothing like what I thought it was gonna be. Like
Well, that's a
it,
decent place to start. What did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was gonna be like a silly like how do I say it? Almost like a jackass is the wrong word. Kind of like a like just like a like keeping up with the Kardashians level of like reality TV show where like
Oh.
Truman like knows that he's being recorded. You know what I mean?
Oh
And it's
dear.
kind of like this whole like scripted event kind of deal. And it's just like, boy, fucking howdy. Was I wrong?
Yeah, no, man, you did not prepare
I
yourself.
was not ready
You
for
were
like
not
this.
ready.
I was not ready for this movie whatsoever. And like,
Which in a way is actually a good thing because getting the full whack of everything that this movie is, I think, is honestly just the best way to get it.
um,
As rough as it absolutely is. And I kind of alluded to this a little bit myself, where it is dark as fuck. Like it is psychotic in
like
so many ways. But there are other aspects to it that ultimately it's a preview of one of my fucking psycho fucking chicken scratches as I was watching. It's like it's 50% psychological horror and 50% existential hero's journey.
yeah, and like there's so much to say. Like I remember starting off and being like so like weirded out by like how like what's the word, awkward everything is. Like the signs are all there. Like from the start of the very start of the movie is literally the director. What's his name? Christoph.
Christoph, yeah.
Christoph talking about like the show itself, and then the wife talking about the show, but we clearly don't get a perspective from Truman. So it is very clear that the show is about Truman, and he doesn't know it. And that is kind of like where our that's kind of like where we start off in the like aspects of it. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what I was doing. I was kind of like zoned out for a second. I wasn't 100% into the movie at that moment, so I kind of missed a little bit of that. So like initially, like it, like so Wyatt, you had a weird take on it, saying that like it didn't come
that
clear to you at the
uh,
start.
for me, the film took like a good minute to get going, but other like once we were
What do you mean
past
by
like
get going?
see the
Yeah,
problem.
clarify a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm trying to. The problem is like we just went through an emotional roller coaster, so the beginning of the
Yeah.
movie is a bit of kind of a bit blurry now.
Okay, but
Well,
like
when
so,
you say get going, it's like it wasn't grabbing you. It felt a little bit slow, a bit boring. Like you just
No,
didn't get what it was saying. Like, what angle is it? Is
it
it not working?
it felt a tad slow.
I don't see like I missed the whole beginning about him talking about the show itself, like his dialogue. But even then, I still got like Oh, there's some fucking fuckery going on right
I
now.
also was a little distracted almost every time something like I was thinking, like almost from the beginning. It's like, wait a minute, the moral implications of somebody like having the whole world viewed, like
Yeah, that's the kind of the crux
But
though. Like
But
that's
see,
literally the
okay,
crux.
Right.
the fact that you picked up on that is like the opposite of slow. Like that's the hook.
Literally, yeah, that's literally what it hooks in. So like you as the audience have this meta knowledge that something's wrong and you can't put your finger on it. And like as you see him like just try to get through his
But-
day, but like quote unquote secretly, like that whole thing with the like the
Okay, so we
magazines
are
and all that shit.
so
Like,
we
we're-
are supposed to focus. So we are supposed to notice that like second one.
Well, you're
Oh, but
thought
yeah,
we were-
no, it is
I thought we were
part of like
suppo-
the actual premise of the movie.
yeah, it's
Okay.
told to you though. Like you're actually like told about like what's going on.
And it is
Right.
consistent throughout. Like I think one of the first notes I wrote down, bear in mind, like this is my third, maybe fourth time seeing this movie. Like I haven't seen it in years, so a lot of it was still hit really raw. But no, yeah, the first thing I wrote was rewatching hammers in just how psychotic and horrible the actors are, and the level of fucked up hooks
Oh,
us
yeah.
in just as much as it hooks in the audience within the movie.
Oh, later
It
when
is
it's said
meta
with his,
commentary done in the best possible way because it actually just holds a mirror up to us and why we find the story so interesting.
No, yeah, when he's having a breakdown and he's like, "Why do you ever want a baby? You can hardly stand me." And we see for a split second her break, and before she like
No,
has to
the
get that
thing is, she
smile.
actually breaks a lot in the movie. She
But-
like,
and that's the thing.
hang
He
on.
doesn't believe her breaks until like several things in. Like he really doesn't want to believe
Well,
it
no.
goes all the way down.
Well, what I'm saying is that she breaks a lot because she looks directly at the camera
A lot.
almost every scene she's in.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's a
that
coach.
last dialogue with her where she's like, "This is unprofessional. Like, how nobody can expect me to work under these conditions." Like, that is full on.
Yeah,
Mask has
she just
slipped
broke,
off.
Yeah.
She's done.
Yeah, but like even like when shit starts to go down, she's like looking at the camera like, like you see like she's
Yeah, she's literally doing an ad, like a product placement ad.
Yeah.
but like when he starts to like kind of like fall apart, she's like,
Mhm.
y'all gonna do anything? And like shout out, who's the actress who plays the wife?
Hmm.
Oh,
I honestly
fuck,
don't know.
I don't know.
Now, to
this
be fair,
one.
I'm shit with names, so that's not.
Sure.
Yeah,
but-
she's
but-
been in a
but-
ton of shit.
Yeah, she's
but
been in
I-
a lot of shit, and shout out to her because like she really nailed that. Like that kind of like, this is not going to the schedule, like you know what I mean, kind of deal. Like it's funny because like in any other movie, looking into the camera and kind of like slipping a little bit, that would be considered bad acting. But in this regard, it's done really well.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's one of those classic things where acting in a movie, when you're portraying someone who is a bad actor, is like a super fucking head fucky difficult thing to do well
For my
without just seeming like you yourself are actually shit.
Yeah, no. So her name is Laura Lenny. What else has she?
Has she been in anything else? Because I recognize
been
that
in a
Oh,
actress.
she's been in a
lot of stuff.
ton of shit. She was in
Primal
like
Fear, Big
late
Sick,
'90s, early 2000s. She was everywhere.
Oh, she was in Congo.
That was a good movie. I like that movie.
When's that gonna be?
Lasers,
its own arc?
laser the gorillas.
Dude. And then
The laser and the gorillas.
Decide by jumping into lava.
Yeah,
Anyway,
times.
that's a whole other experience.
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, she's been in a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, would you say I know the whole director and her talking to the camera is kind of as the audience, that's our first thing, but from Truman's perspective, it's that light falling,
yeah,
That's where it starts. Yeah.
and that's
Donnie-
right at
Donnie
the
Darko
beginning.
kind
Like,
of shit.
yeah,
Well,
that's
except that's not where it starts, is it? Because it kind of goes all the way back, and this is like another one of like the little hopeful things I wrote. Because in amongst all the horror, like you said, it's like 50% hero's journey. You do get this thing where one of the things that this movie suggests is that there is something innate in us that if the world was fake, we would be able to eventually pick up enough signs and tell.
Mhm.
And the movie does a wonderful fucking job of actually doing that, not just with weird wishy-washy like implications, but like actual setup and payoff with like you have different people throughout his life who'd like try and shatter the illusion, man. The society ain't real, man. And it echoes weird shit we hear from like just actual crazy people in the real world,
Oh yeah, like
which
this.
only feeds into the incredible biblical level of gaslighting that happens in this fucking movie. But
The
yeah, it all
idea
feeds in together and builds
Dur-
up until it snaps.
during that interview scene when it's like, oh, the vocal minority is like, vocal minority. I'm
But that's
like,
the thing; they would be.
They would be like no, like that's the thing is this show is like this is like the crazy thing about the quote unquote show of the movie. Like
Yeah,
it is like well established that this is the biggest cultural
yeah,
thing
okay,
of all
and
time.
yes, and
Like-
that's
like,
fair
that's
enough.
the
Yeah,
thing, is
in
like,
their
yeah, there
world,
would
this
be
is
a
this would be
very
the
small
vocal
Sorry.
minority.
and
Yeah.
even then, the vocal minority is probably thousands upon thousands of fucking people who not just don't watch, but actively find it morally repulsive that it exists.
Yeah, and think
Yeah,
about like
'cause-
But
Twitter,
it will
like,
continue.
yeah, but like think about it like Twitter, like they are the vocal minority, but they are like hundreds of maybe thousands of people
Mhm.
who like all fucking share these like insane things. So like in this regard, those quote unquote insane people would be like the people who are against the show, and the show is so fucked. Like the idea of like literally a corporate like the line
A
that like
corporation
actually
adopted him.
yeah, the line that got under my skin and actually like physically hurt me was, "Oh, this is the first time a corporation has ever adopted a child," and it's like,
The line
There's
that
just
got
something innately fucking repugnant about it, isn't there?
the line that
But
really
that's
got
the thing,
me.
the corporate aspect of that juxtaposed with just how sincere Christoph is. It actually makes him both more and less endearing. Because one hand, A, he's sincere. He genuinely believes the things he says, for better or worse. But B, goddamn, he's a fucking
The-
psychopath.
Yeah, the fact
Like-
that he went like if he wanted to, he can leave, and it's like you literally threw like a net at him.
Well, see, this is kind of the fucked up thing where he is crazy and he means the things he says, and both of those statements are 100%
Right.
actually true.
Yeah,
When
like-
Truman leaves at the end, when he's on the boat, he calls in the storm because of all of the corporation, of all of the tech leads, of all the business people. He is so fucking about this shit that if Truman wants to make this a matter of life and death, he will play that game. He will play this to the end. And when he throws a storm at him and Truman says, "Is that the best you got?" and he sails into the waves, he's proud of him.
Right.
There is a
There's
part of
a-
him. Yeah.
There's a lot of moments and implications that Christoph almost sees himself as Truman's father.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
Like
very clear.
I don't know if you noticed it, but I guarantee you the director probably didn't even tell him to do this. This guy's just a really good fucking actor.
Oh, yeah,
but those little where
shout
like
out
he
to this
touches the
guy.
screen, he like pets his hair. He's very like kind of doting in that way, and it's really small things that you might not even notice. But
That's
it
Ed
ups
Harris,
the creep
right?
factor a lot.
a lot.
A
Like, it's
lot.
It's like the idea of a psychopath and a genius being very, very thin, like a very, very
Right.
thin line. And like, God, dude, like he like skirts that super uncomfortably.
The
Well,
fact
and
that he's
even-
such a true believer makes him more endearing and much more horrifying.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ninja.
That speech at the end that he's giving to him when he's standing in front of the door, he is simultaneously proud of him for getting this far, but he is like when he's recanting all of the moments, you know, he's like, I was there when you were born, I was there when you took your first steps. Like he means that.
Right.
That's genuine. Like, and that's like you said, it's endearing, but it's also kind of sinister in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
Yeah,
he
it's like,
cares-
oh god.
He's basically
He cares
telling
in a really, really horrible way. If that makes
yeah,
sense.
he's basically telling
Yeah.
Truman to go back into the cave.
Pretty
Little bit.
much.
I mean, if you want to, like, I mentioned that, like, it's an existential hero's journey. It's like, if you want to take it from existential to, like, just philosophical analogies, yeah, you do literally just go right back to Plato's cave. And then you also then, from there, kind of get this thing where a lot of people will read different things into this because it's a fucking good movie with a lot of deep meaning, and that's just how that goes. About people who came from very religious backgrounds and either abandoned their faith or found some other faith that like was reliant on principles outside of like their upbringing, and they see that as kind of a very similar thing, where the more they tried to explore, the more they tried to leave, the more it felt like they were being caged in.
Hmm.
And eventually there was just some breaking point where they genuinely felt they were going fucking insane.
Oh, dude, there's
Mm.
that really just triggered like fuck.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's
let it out, let it
There,
out.
there was a
Say it.
recent documentary that I watched on Netflix about the events of Waco, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
there's
no.
another
And-
there's another real
yeah.
life.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And
Let it out.
one of the children who
Mhm.
was like let out and like, basically escaped this cult of people, she's still alive and she was interviewed for this documentary, and she got to see a lot of these like videos and hear these audios and things for the first time during the making of this documentary. And it's like
Mm.
watching her whole life, like everything she knew, literally go up in flames. And she is alone, like truly alone. She has no parents left. She has no family. Everybody thought she was crazy. And it's just like, at that point, it's like she didn't even get the choice to explore and try to escape this cult. That decision was taken away from her.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like she just got thrown into the system, into this whole world that she was told from the time she was a child is evil and will hate you and will persecute you. And it's like, fuck.
I mean, going back to Plato, she was yeeted out of the fucking
Yeah,
cave.
she was yeeted out of the cave, and then the cave burnt down with like everyone she knew and loved in it. It's like,
Yeah.
God, Jesus Christ, the heebie-jeebies.
Why stand in that red bubble to regain energy? Yeah.
Oh
no,
yeah, what part of the movie was that with the red bubble? Yeah,
red bubble. But hey,
yeah.
any of you guys? Okay, so this is about to get even darker because oh boy, like
Jesus.
the whole subject matter is really fucking horrible. Any
Yeah,
of you
yeah.
ever heard of Nasubi?
Vesuvi?
Nasubi, Nasubi.
No.
Not specifically.
Oh boy. So did you guys know that this kind of happened in real life?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh,
There
was
was
that the Asian guy who
Yeah, the
literally like
Japanese-
televised his life for like what was it, a
No,
couple of years or something?
No, he didn't televise his life.
They
Others
did.
did. And
Yeah.
they live streamed him. So the story is there was this failing Japanese comedian who just wasn't like just down on his luck, and he wasn't really getting in a lot of love and or a lot of monetary value. And this is back when like Japan's economy was like in the shithole. So he was offered a contract for what he thought was a month to basically go live in like an apartment and like just be recorded while he does this thing. And if I remember correctly, he had to basically you know how like magazines will have those like, oh, if you submit your thing now you can get a chance to win something, like anything, you know what I mean, like it's like a free video game, like a free kitchenware, like all these like different things. His whole job was to, or like quote unquote job, he was contractually obligated to go through these magazines and get, I believe, $100,000 worth of like subscription stuff. So like if he got like a rice cooker that was worth $100, like that's how much he would have, like he won $100,000. So he was trying to get up to that point. He thought he was only going to be there for a month. It lasted 6 years.
And this was
And they
legal how?
stole everything from him. Like he was only allowed to keep whatever he won. That includes fucking food and clothes. So he was butt naked for 6 years, and it was being live recorded every single second of his life.
Again, this was legal how?
He was like, he signed up for it. Like it's this weird thing with like fucked up contracts. But this is a real thing that happened, and like it ruined this guy's life because like he kind of went insane, being like naked. He wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. That was the other thing. So he was isolated completely, and like they basically recorded like his descent into lunacy. So like we've seen like what like something like the Truman Show can do to somebody. It's horrible. like it's
I
a
mean,
really
there's
dark.
another example of what the Truman Show could do to somebody that we don't really like to bring up as often, but
Yeah.
Chris Chan.
Oh God.
No. We're
Man.
not doing that today.
We're not gonna go into
We're
too
not
many
going in.
details.
No,
We're
no,
not
no.
gonna go into details because we will lose
We're not
any
getting
bit.
into it. However, to draw another real world example of what the constant surveillance of outside forces will do to the way someone interacts with the world around them, it's not good.
It's not great.
Right.
It's a bad time.
It's
in general.
incredibly isolating in the most degrading kind of way
Yeah.
because you're not alone. That's also the problem.
Well, the more
if
reason
you-
I was trying to
yeah.
cut that off was because, like, I thought if we want to ever prevent that from happening again, he must be, like, buried deep within, like, the center of the fucking earth.
No, dude, that's
Or-
the
or-
cat's out of the bag on that one.
Yeah,
It's
they're-
way too fucking late.
Yeah, it was a
That's also kind of the fucking problem.
Yeah, and I was about to say there are, and like as sad as it is, there are basically other Christians. So, but we're not going to get into that.
Mm,
But yeah, just like I said, and it happened. Weirdly enough, the live stream for Nasubi, it happened like the same year that the Truman Show came out. So I'm really worried that like the Truman Show inspired this really horrible thing, and it's not the Truman Show's fault, obviously, but
I
there
would
is,
just point to more just like a cultural thing because
Mhm.
this would have been like around the 90s before the internet, but when television and just general all-encompassing media was still ramping up to a degree that people were very aware of.
Mhm.
Reality TV was just becoming so much more of a thing and it was getting increasingly invasive.
Yes.
It's where we got things like Big Brother. The
Yes.
show literally named after like Orwell's
Mhm.
nightmare dystopia.
Yeah.
The
concept
fucking
of Big
shit
Brother.
post like, now based on the famous sci-fi novel, please do not invent the doomsday device. We bring you the Apple doomsday device.
Basically.
Yeah, literally fucking that, where you got these people who they were vetted and casted to be on the show based on their desperation to be a reality TV show star. So these very obviously mentally not quite there people were all thrown into a house with 24-hour surveillance, and it was very widely watched and ran for multiple seasons.
still
And
going.
some of them actually became celebrities after the fact.
Yeah.
Most of them
wasn't
burnt
that,
out and
isn't that
disappeared.
literally like Andrew Tate's whole
Yeah,
thing?
that's what I said.
Like,
That's how, like,
No,
Andrew
yeah.
Tate, that was,
Yeah,
like,
that's
started,
part of his origin story. That's
Yeah.
like, imagine how just unhinged and divorced from reality he is. They were all kind of like that. He just happened to be the one that became rich.
Yeah, and started his own fight club, but that's a fucking story.
Well,
for a different thing.
yeah, no, that's way further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, but so going back to the movie, obviously like there's a lot of like cultural touchstones to like what this movie does, and like it's like so this is the start of our James career arc. We're gonna be watching a lot of James Carrey movies.
Good
because,
old
hey,
Jim Bob the Lifter.
Jim Bob the Lifter. He's a fucking great actor. I feel like that is a
Oh yeah, no, that
very,
always gets
like,
forgotten because
that is-
especially when he was at his height,
Mhm.
comedy was never really seen as all that prestigious.
Yes.
But the dude can fucking act, and
And
he's
then
not
in
the
the age
only
of-
one.
and
There's
then in
plenty
the
of
age
like
of the,
comedians.
And in the age of the internet, where it's just like, oh, Jim Carrey, the meme of him making the goofy face when he's interviewing for Sonic, like that.
Yeah, he was a great Eggman. But like, yeah, so we all have a good appreciation. I feel like it's universal to say we all have a good appreciation for.
I mean,
Carrey.
anyone who was a kid in the 90s, I think they're gonna.
And I feel like, yeah, that's a very universal statement. Like for a lot of people, is that Jim Carrey is just a household name. Everybody, when you say Jim Carrey, you know who you're talking about. And we just want to do this appreciation post. And for me, this was a chance for me to watch a couple movies that I haven't seen yet. The next movie we'll be watching, which we'll tease towards the end, is also another movie I haven't seen yet. So I'll be curious to see that. We planned on doing this from like darkest to funny. And I didn't realize how horrifically dark we started. Like,
And yet, not a single frame of gore, nothing that is explicit horror. It's all just existential. It's all just the concept. Like everything that this is and everything that this implies is just fucking terrifying.
And like,
And also hopeful
would you?
because he gets out.
He does get out, but like he goes to
Not just
lunch.
that he gets out, but because everything about Truman as a character is so painfully sincere as it could be the everyman. He's kind of dorky, he's kind of dweeby, but he also has his moments where he musters up courage, where he has the ambitions, he has the drive to get them, but he also has his reservations. Like he always kind of goes back and forth where he's never a caricature of any particular thing. He's always just a guy. He's the realest thing, and that's what makes the show worth watching.
Yeah. Can I also
And
just?
because of that, like, yeah,
Can I,
the fact that he was able to detect the fakeness of the world around him, even when it felt like he was being gaslit and he was having a psychotic fucking break, if he was doing this in the real world, just testing the limits of his reality, getting crazier and crazier, up to the point where he started to get like a bit of exhilaration and adrenaline out of like pushing the limits of what he could do. That how when he's unpredictable, people
Mm.
don't know when to act. If you've ever known someone with a particular kind of poor mental health disposition, it's scary fucking close to how that fucking works.
yeah, and we didn't touch on this, but like the idea of them literally molding his life as well, not just like
Yeah,
killing him.
it's like
Of
Giving him the phobia.
The phobia of the sea was probably like actually like the part like there was another part that made my like guts turn inside because it's like they literally created a phobia for him, and it's like, man, the implications of this, boy, like wow, like that's a bad time.
and to the point that they didn't even bother to check the sea when he went missing.
Yeah, because they knew that their perfectly messed up like smorgasbord of problems would be fine for that, and it's like,
And then you get the reveal of the boat, and Kristoff, in all his sincerity, doesn't even fucking hesitate. Immediately turns the cameras back on, and he, just like everyone who's watching, is absolutely transfixed at how he's conquered his fears,
there's
about how
another
he's actually gonna do it.
yeah, there's another line though that Christoph says that actually like there's a lot of like this whole like I want to get into a greater discussion about like what would you define this movie's genre, but there's a line towards the end that like really made me uncomfortable where it's like, God, you're gonna kill him in front of a live audience, and Christoph, without even fucking hesitating, goes,
Yeah.
well, he was born on camera, and it's like, like, dude.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh man,
how
that
he's
was
like,
a fucking rough line.
Yeah, that was
when I
rough.
talk about like
If
how his
you-
sincerity makes him endearing and also horrifying.
If you
There it
think
is.
about earlier in the film, there was a line that actually where he was talking about how, you know, he progressively kept pushing the envelope. He's like, oh, I want to have the conception of this baby on film. It's like every milestone he keeps pushing. Death is just the natural escalation of that.
Yeah.
So like, and man, so that means he would like let this person like that's what he would do for his art. Like he would let
And
this person
remember,
die.
from his perspective, the fact that Truman is real is like it is the fundamental anchor to all of it. So the fact that Truman is really going to push the limits of his world, the fact that he is really going to sail into the storm, hell or high water, and he is going to live or is going to transcend, he's playing that game. This is real. If he goes out there, he really tries to do that, he's taking a real risk, he can really die. If that's what happens, that's what happens.
That's not even like a real risk. Like the risk is being
But-
forced upon
And
him.
there we go. That's
like-
where the sincerity becomes scary. Because
Mhm.
to him, not only is it real, it needs to be real for
Mhm.
any of it to make sense, for any of it to be worth it.
To the point, like
That's why he would never just let him go to the edge.
Yeah, it's even to the point where like they can't let Truman like get in like a tiny bit of a scratch up with a car. He's the star, so the car's just immediately like.
Well,
it
no,
takes
see,
a
this is
bus
at the
a hot
beginning
minute
of
to
his
stop.
testing the boundaries of reality. So if you do that in the real world, where, well, let me preface this. If you do that here in a real country that has sane people in it, if you get into the middle of the road where cars are not moving at high speeds and they still have time to stop, they will stop. If you then go into the other lane and hold out your hand, if the driver has time to respond, yeah, they're gonna fucking stop. There's nothing about this that breaks reality. But that was also just the beginning. That was him just the very cracks were starting to open up, and he was starting to act in ways that are unpredictable, trying to push the people around him just a little bit, starting with something that would be a normal reaction, something that they would do anyway, regardless of how real or fake the world is, which is not run him the fuck over.
Well,
And then he moves on a little bit more.
It takes a
I mean,
bus
you-
quite a bit
more.
to slow
You are-
down, even when slow.
you are
Well, that's because buses are fucking big, man.
No, yeah,
meaning,
but
like-
it stopped
like-
on a dime.
you're meaning that like in small towns like that is a thing that would happen, but like not to the point where like Truman starts taking advantage of it. But
And then
Yeah, I
and then
like
here
the
in the big
idea-
city, they'll
I
just
like-
run you over.
I love the idea that like the bus driver didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, he didn't actually know how to,
So, like-
to use the bus.
Like it's weird. I guess like it's not like that like uncommon knowledge, but like as a driver, it's like I'm just watching him like try to like put it in gear, try to figure it out like without even pulling the brake, and it's like he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
And then with the boat, he's like, "I'm just a bus driver."
bus driver. Like, even then, he's not a bus driver because he didn't know how to drive the bus.
Yeah,
He's
like
not supposed
He's
to drive
just
the
an
bus.
actor.
He's not supposed to drive the bus. He's not supposed to leave. God, it's so messed up, man. So messed up.
Which just
So, yeah, what would you consider this movie's genre? Because I definitely wouldn't call this a comedy.
This is
No.
a documentary.
no.
What?
It's a documentary. It's the beginning of exploration of parasocial relationships before the existence of the internet.
I mean,
Well, yeah, I guess we could
Yeah.
kind of touch on that. Like, they kind of predicted live streaming.
Well, and just all of the scenes where you see the normal people reacting to the show, or like there's that one where you're looking at the inside of the moon base, and one of the techs or the guys in there just kind of like puts his hand up to the screen as Truman is sleeping,
Yeah.
and just kind of touch, and it's like, man, it's little shit like that where you're just like, ooh, man, yeah, like, why did this show about some random guy become so popular?
for the same
Because-
reason live stream has become popular, because the more you
Mhm.
let the camera into your life, the more the audience, usually an audience of people who feel disconnected from the people around them, feel like they know you.
Yep.
And that feels like they have some kind of relationship with you, a social but not quite, some kind of parasocial relationship. And yeah,
Can I-
you're absolutely right. This predates the internet, and yet it called it on a fucking dime.
Can I just say, like, I think it was supposed to be a joke, but like another thing that made me really uncomfortable was like the last line of the movie, where like the show gets turned off, the show is over, Truman's gone, and the security guards are like, all right, what else can we watch? And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's immediately.
Like-
No, yeah, I thought about that
You're
as
right.
well.
That is like, it's half joke, but also just half reflection. Remember, I mentioned how like the horror of just how deep this goes is part of what hooks us in as people watching the movie, and that's reflected in the fact that everyone in the audience in the movie is also hooked in. The fact is, us being hooked in like that isn't because of like some psychotic crazy clown world. It's an innate part of just being a person, that when you're exposed to this level of depth of someone else's life, you're going to be interested. It's just a natural response.
Yeah, but like,
And it gets exploited by big shit like someone who wants to build a fucking Hollywood dome and broadcast a child's life in it.
oh my god, the dome that's visible from fucking space.
The fact that
the
they
first time you
shit,
see
dog.
it, and it's right behind the Hollywood sign as well. I forgot
Also,
that detail.
Let's not forget that they created so many state of the art like technology and or like the 5,000 microscopic cameras when they started with only just one. They created
Fuck
a
that!
fucking
The
weather
literal
dome.
ability to control
No,
weather.
yeah, I was then going to escalate with like they fucking created like a weather dome.
Like, oh my god! Like they're literally playing God.
Yeah.
Oh, and they
That's
also,
another
and
thing as well about how he plays God. But this is like It's kind of a trope, but it's not one you would see super often of the mortal man thrust into the role of God and what that does to him.
It's a game of The Sims, but your Sims become self-aware.
Kinda, yeah.
Well, no.
Or only one of them is real.
No,
Everything
only
else
one
is a
is
sim.
only one is a PC. The rest are like open. Man, yeah, like, and like I said, the dark implications of it, like, move to the extraction, by the way. The dark implications of just like it's the end of a show, a 30-year show that is like destroyed, like not
That's
destroyed,
even
but like
more
has
fucked
been
up.
like a massive cultural icon, and then people are just like, "Yeah, what else you want to watch?" It's like,
Also, one would argue Truman's hell is only kind of just beginning because now he's going into the real world where he's one of the
See,
most
this is part of
recognizable
Christoph's
faces.
philosophy,
Yeah.
where the world out there has all the same lies, deceits, pains, and tragedies as the one I built, but it's not safe.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like as like a messed up, like in a really fucked up way, he's not like wrong. Like it's just
Even to the
Well,
point
we
that
never got to see Sylvia and him reunite. Like, it's implied that she's going to him, but you don't actually get to see them, reconnect.
And I think that's also a little bit the point. What he does now, who he ends up with, what life he pursues, it's
that's
none
his
of our
life.
fucking business. We have to see what else is on.
Yeah.
yeah,
Man,
that
you talk about Christoph's uncomfortable lines, but like that scene where he's feeding, what's his name, Marlon?
Yeah, the best
The
friend.
dialogue when he's sitting there talking to him, like, ugh.
Oh
So,
yeah,
Gross and creepy.
Oh,
and,
They also created the codec because like he's not wearing an earpiece, so like they've also invented an earpiece that could vibrate the bones of your inner ear.
I don't know, dude.
like dude, like there's so much like it's kind of weird how like sci-fi the movie is in a way. Like it's touching on stuff that like is literally out of this world.
just another little line, and this is tiny tangent, but something I noticed on rewatch when Christoph is doing the TV interview, the interviewer opens up by noting how jealously Christoph regards his privacy.
You don't say.
Yeah, isn't that
About
weird?
that. I think that's one of those irons.
Yeah, a little bit iron.
Yeah, no, like this movie's dark, and I really appreciated actually sitting down and getting a chance to watch it because man, but like we were talking, it's like man, I wasn't ready for like all of the stuff that like we saw because, and I had no idea what the movie was even about, and I'm so happy to actually watch it.
It's incredibly dark, and then kind of like the classic horror movie thing where it's super gory, fucked up, dark, like everything else. But like you get the person who makes it out at the end, and because of that, it like they have this undercurrent of like some kind of hero's journey, like warped into it. Because you get Truman who goes down this path of losing his actual mind, of his life gets fucked up. Everything he holds dear, his job, his place in the world, his ability to provide for himself, his wife, his connection to family, everything. He loses it all in the pursuit of just this absolute madness. But at the end, he finds some kind of enlightenment. The fact that like he found it in him to just power through.
Yeah.
But if you try that in the real world, they will lock you up. Curious.
Well, and I mean, it's not. I mean, you say it's hopeful, and I can see where you're coming from, but man, what's waiting for him on the other side of that door ain't sunshine and rainbows.
No, yeah, that's why I was saying.
But I think that's also a good thing in its own way. The fact that it's real.
But that's just it. He's always going to have that celebrity status. Everyone knows his face. He's literally got merchandise, other businesses outside the dome that exist completely on his show. Like that was the Truman Bar that we kept cutting to, where like all the people were sitting around watching the show. Like, so literally a small portion of the economy is now going away because of him leaving that door. You know what I mean? Like people are out of a job because of him.
It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows, but in a way, when the antagonistic force he's breaking away from is the gilded cage, that
Oh,
in
I
its own way
agree.
is a benefit.
But it's
Like,
like
he's going
it's
to
going
face
from the
hardship
gilded
to
cage to the
real.
shitty cage. Like they're both cages.
Well, this is kind of
Because
a classic trope as well, where you go from the gilded cage to the field outside, and the field outside is barren and dirty and dangerous, and you can get cut, and there's fucking wild animals out there, and there are other people who they're not actors, like they might actually have genuine bad intentions for you. But the fact that everyone who comes up to him, good or bad, it's going to be real. And that to him, for better
yes,
and
but
worse, is
he's also what 30 something and basically starting over. He has no parents. He has never had a real job. He has never had real friends. He's never had real anything. He's
So
Mhm.
that's
essentially an infant, but he's 35. You know what I mean? Like it's literally it's not just starting at zero, it's starting at negative. Like he's got a detriment.
Mhm.
And it's just how do you build a life from that?
okay. Following that through just a little bit, he goes out into the world. There's like a period of about like a few months to a year of like just absolute fucking media mania because oh my god, the most famous person on earth is out. What's he doing? We're all interested. We're all tuning in. Imagine he isn't able to do anything with it. After that year, he ends up living on the streets of Hollywood in a box, and he's sitting there and he's looking out at the world. Do you think he would actually prefer to go back into the cage? Because
No,
I
I
don't think he
don't.
would.
I don't think that he would, but I'm just saying it's like it's tragic because there is no victory there. You know what I mean? Like yes, he struck out and he got away from his I guess you could call them the antagonists that were keeping him in the cage, but there's nothing waiting for him on the other side either.
Only the chance to make it himself, which, like you said, he doesn't have a lot of prospects. His education, I do believe, was real. Like he had to be taught how to read, to
Yeah,
write,
he,
to
like he's not. He's
do the
not.
Sure.
insurance job to like at least some degree.
Mhm.
And everyone on Earth knows him to be a man of like integrity, someone who's like quite serious, who like commits to the jobs he does. Like all the shit that an interviewer is trying to interpret from vague answers, everyone on the planet actually knows for a fact about this guy. So, and like I said, it comes down to what he is able to make of it for himself. And I think that is the victory condition. Not the certainty of victory, but the chance to do it on his own.
But does he have that chance when he has this weird sort of celebrity status attached to him anywhere he goes?
I mean,
Literally every country in the world. Like, it's not just like this is an
yeah,
American thing, this is a global phenomenon.
Yeah,
yeah,
people were
literally,
watching this to learn English.
yeah. Like they did say, like over what is it? Over 222 countries.
Yeah,
and
over 200 and something countries tune into
and
the Truman Show.
do you want to
Mhm.
talk about another fucked up thing? Let's not forget the fact that like there were 5 babies from unwanted
Oh
pregnancies.
yeah, there were
Oh, yeah.
there were 5
He
other
was the one who
Trumans.
arrived on cue.
Man, like there's so many like dark implications. Is there a sequel to this movie?
No.
I
No.
fucking hope not.
Yeah, because like what we're talking about, like, because like yeah, it could be a dark thing or it could be good, but like that's just depending on like how he
Yeah.
handles it.
And
And he
that
does.
also just comes down to an interpretation thing. It's like we've spent the entire movie getting to know this guy and every fucking trait he has as a person incredibly intimately. So, just with that, it comes down to our own personal thing. Do we think that this person has what it takes to like find his feet? I think he has a decent chance.
Yeah.
He's going to be confused. It's going to be fucked up. It's going to be weird.
Yeah, but he's not.
But
He's
I
not
think he's
exactly
ready for
starting.
that.
Yeah, it's like he's not exactly starting at zero because he is like we said, he's a charming like everyday man. It's just that his everyday was being recorded.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a
Um,
chance to socially recover. I'll give
No,
that.
No,
not without like the
no.
rest of his life in therapy. God
Oh my
damn.
god, yeah.
Because like he's gonna, like I said, like one of the one of the things I was gonna point out was the second he's out in that world, he's gonna just see how much of his face was just plastered all over.
Mhm.
And we see how celebrities handle that shit in just our normal world, and they saw
Yeah.
it coming.
That's my thing. Is I feel like him discovering the truth and really trying to just come to terms with that, like the sheer enormity of it, for how long it went on, for how big it really got. I think they said like 1.7 billion people watched his birth.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that by itself, and that it just being one tiny fraction of his life. It's like, goddamn, like, is he ever going to be able to truly come to terms with all of it? I don't think so. It's just
I'm
on a scale
truly
that's
come
like
to terms.
unimaginable.
I don't think he would ever possibly reach a point where he's just living a normal life like everybody else, and that's not going to be a fundamental part of who he is, where he came from, how he is, the way he is, all that. I think that's always going to stay with him. There's no getting around that. But when we talk about like a normal life, we're using a little bit different metrics, I think. Where when I say normal life, I mean he will be able to form interpersonal relationships with other people. He will
Um,
be able to find ways to generally support his continued
See,
existence.
See, I
I
don't. I don't
worry about
believe
him
you on that.
carrying over that
On the first part.
paranoia
Mhm.
On that.
Possible.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
On that
Yeah.
first thing is
he's going
actually
to be
where
thinking there's cameras everywhere, and he's going to think that every person that he meets is fake or lying to him. Like his ability to trust has been severely damaged.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
why I was
Literally
saying
everybody
like
in his life, his mom, his dad, his best friend, his wife, everyone lied to him.
Yeah, we're not even sure if that's actually his mom. That's like the dark
No,
part of
because
it.
of
It's
the
literally
undocumented.
not.
No,
It's
yeah.
Oh, it's an
literally not.
actress.
Like that's the part that really bothers me too. It's like, yeah, it's like, was that his dad? Well,
No,
maybe.
No.
it
No.
wasn't.
Yeah, I
No,
mean,
even
yeah,
the
because like he
slightest.
doesn't
They
have to be his
only
dad.
ever refer to him as a former cast member.
That bit. Fucking
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's why I said
hard.
socially
Yeah.
he's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's fucked.
At least for a while, because
No,
it-
like
no,
for
no, no.
life.
He's always, like I said, he's always going to carry the shit with him. There's no getting around that. But just with who he is, even with paranoia in tow, he clearly has the ability to form interpersonal relationships. He has the ability to talk to people,
Mhm.
even if he's still always going to have that part of him that's questioning, that's always like a little bit paranoid, or he might have days where he's like checking inside lampshades and shit just to make sure there's no cameras in there. Like, I don't think that's going away. And in therapy for the rest of his life, just to kind of help mitigate it, but it's staying with him.
Hell,
But
there's
that
probably
doesn't
gonna
mean
be
he's hopeless.
that's probably gonna be constant paparazzi as well. Like, oh, Truman left the show. Let's talk to him.
Yeah,
Right.
every other year there's another "Where is he now?" fucking
Well, like,
bullshit.
we were talking about the whole parasocial aspect of it. Is because he's gonna meet people who know everything about his life,
And
they
he
are
knows
complete
nothing of
strangers.
them.
Strangers. They are
And
complete.
here's the
strangers.
thing: in that situation where Mr. Truman, he's like doing some kind of media thing because everybody wants to know about him now that he's other thing, and he just gets talking to someone, like some interviewer or some other media personality. He's just like off camera. It's like they're getting ready to do a show and whatever. With who Truman is, and a lot of this is also the fact that he's played by Jim Carrey, and it's also Jim Carrey's mannerisms. This person starts talking to Truman like they know every single thing he's ever done, every food he's ever eaten, every breath he's ever taken. In that situation, I think Truman is going to turn around and say, "So tell me about you."
Maybe.
Like I said, with what we've gone through in this movie, with how intimately we get to know him, I think he's got a shot. I don't think it's a guarantee.
But
There's
here's
things
the
that are going to
thing,
stay
and
with him, but
I'm a pretty hopeful person in general, but do we even really know him? We know the manufactured version of him.
but he
Well,
wasn't
He
manufactured.
doesn't
That was
even
the
know
point.
who he is. Like that's the thing.
well,
Like
no,
all
I
of this
think
You were
stuff.
wrong.
Like the
Remember,
whole thing
there's
with the
one of
whole
my favorite lines in this movie is "You never had a camera in my head." Because okay, I don't know if you've ever had someone tell you, "As I know you better than you know yourself." It is one of the most patronizing, infuriating things for someone to tell you, and it's an argument starter. Like if we
No,
were just having a
I
heated discussion
understand
before,
that.
we're fighting now.
But what I'm saying is they literally manufactured trauma, to the degree of physically manifested phobias. Not just an aversion to, but literally like starts having medical physical issues when he gets around water. Like that degree of manipulation, like that affected him as a person.
To the
I
point
Yeah.
understand they never had
that
100% control over him, but they had like 99% control over him. They didn't have access to his inner private thoughts, but they absolutely had influence over every single environmental factor that made him who he is. And I mean, ultimately that's what makes all of us who we are, right? It's that idea that our relationships with our family, with our friends, all of our experiences make up our identity and who we are. He had control over none of those from birth.
Well, do you remember one of the first things I pointed out as being hopeful in this movie about how like there's this innate part of ourself that would be able to tell? I think that's one of the things in this movie where it's not all nurture. Most of it is nurture. Most of the nurture is going to stay with you forever, and there's no getting around that. But there is a level of nature. There is a part of you that is just you. So even if it's not exactly how you might see things, and I do agree to like a fairly big degree that our environmental factors will influence a fucking massive part of not just how we interact with the world, but just fundamentally how we think about shit.
Mhm.
But from the movie's perspective, there's a part of Truman that is just Truman. You never had a camera in my head. Everything else was you. Everything else was in your control, and I still got out because you could never have it 100%. There's a part of me that will always be me. And I fucking love that message. I think it's really fucking cool.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't feel like he would have come to that conclusion naturally on his own. It was the all the cracks in the environment is what led him to that down that
I
path.
was more wondering like, so what caused that? uh, How did he not notice for 30 years if they basically kind of keep fucking up every 20 seconds?
Well,
Because they
no,
kept
Lightfall.
explaining it away.
the there was an implication that he was kind of aware of what was going on at the beginning of the movie, because when he's like in the insurance office, like the first thing we see him do is like try to call a travel agent. So like
Well,
what
no,
we're
he
seeing,
specifically asks for the phone number for the girl that got away.
was he asking for the phone number or was he trying to
He
get
was
to
asking for a listing for either Laurel or Sylvia.
Sylvia? Yeah, okay, you're right.
Oh yeah.
So that's our first indication that it's not just that he wants to go to Fiji. It's he specifically wants to go to Fiji because of her,
Hmm.
because that's what her dad said, is
Yeah,
that they
and
were
like,
moving to Fiji.
and the implication is that like, yeah, like the movie begins when he's starting his descent into getting out.
And then they kind of go back how there were like little cracks that appeared before then. But even then, it's like mapping that back onto remember earlier I was talking about like how a lot of people read into this like a lot of their own experiences just in the real world, but not necessarily for shit like this, but for other things about how their reality might be something that A is constructed or B just might not align with fundamentally who they are. Where you remember what the quote dad said when she was going to Fiji?
Hmm.
That she was schizophrenic. It's the gaslighting thing, and a lot of the ways like that paranoia, the thinking that everything is a TV show, that you're being watched, that there's cameras everywhere. That paranoia, that is like in severe cases of schizophrenia, that's pretty close to how it manifests.
Hmm.
And it's not just that either. If you have someone who has a severe anxiety disorder, if you know, hypothetically, were talking to them while they were on a significant amount of drugs and they start poking at the reality around them. If you try to go to a shop and they start acting unpredictably because they want some kind of reassurance that everything around them is real, like the level of closeness this has to just basic human psychology, fundamental parts of the way we try to understand things. And then you add in the little cracks. You know, every so often in your life, something's going to happen that's going to feel weird. And maybe the time that you probably should have been hit by a car on the road, but then like some pure fucking coincidental thing happened and you were saved. Maybe that was the will of God. Maybe an angel is on your shoulder looking out for you. Maybe the devil almost got you, but then God had your bags. Like, you will rationalize it. You will come up with explanations, but ultimately that's the way you interact with it. It's in your head. But those little cracks, those appear for everyone. It's just that in the movie and the story that's being told, they're a lot more literal. But there's always something. There's always people who see shadowy people in the corner of their eye at home, so now they believe in ghosts. Crazy comes in a lot of flavors.
That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, cryptozoology is a thing.
Yeah.
Listen, okay.
People who dedicate their lives looking for the big blurry man in the woods.
You don't know he doesn't exist. Fuck you both.
He does. He's just blurry. That's why
Exactly.
the photographs are fucking shit.
No, it's just the molecule, the shy guy, and now he's gonna fucking kill you.
Like, I feel like there was a jab at me and inch and I hate you.
No, that's why I went in the direction of SCP. It was just like, oh, that was weird.
SCP.
Whatever you say, Truman.
Listen, you don't know.
Oh
Right,
yeah, that got me, by the way. The like, don't worry about Truman, and it's just like, what do you?
Nanny?
Because they couldn't have possibly known his name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Is like, under normal circumstances, if that happened like the week before, he might have just wrote it off. It's like, oh, that guy must know me from work or something. It's like, I don't know, and he would just kind of shrug and leave it alone. But it's the fact that it's one crack among many that it just adds up, and that's how I think like he got through 30 years. Every so often there'd be a crack, just like there's a crack in everybody's normal life, but you just kind of get past it because life is weird sometimes, and you move on because you've got a job or school or college.
Well,
or whatever you're doing.
did you catch that after the light fell, they were literally explaining it away on the radio that same morning?
Yeah, it was,
like
and same with everything else.
Part.
It was a piece of a airplane, and it's like, bitch, where?
And then in the travel agent, you have the airplane being hit by like lightning. It could happen to you.
Yeah. Who needs Europe?
Who needs Europe?
I'm glad you pointed that out. That was great. It's literally like, oh, don't worry, everywhere is shit. Just stay in the bubble.
But like that newspaper is like, it paid off again later on, because when the dad tried and talked to him and he was ushered away, next day on the newspaper, not a newspaper he was reading, it was just a fucking diegetic part of his environment. Homeless people are being rounded up and blah blah blah. It's like cracking down.
The homeless.
It's like Jesus,
which is almost like verbatim. It's almost verbatim what the mom says too. There's a lot of like this movie is like, as much. Here's the thing, I'm talking about it because it deeply disturbed me and like troubled me, but like that in essence is like a tale of a good movie, and this movie is insanely amazing. Like I'm really upset that I'm only now just watching it, because like
I hold it up completely sincerely as a fucking masterpiece. It is so good.
Yeah, like it's awesome. So yeah, man, like whew. Like
yeah, and then it just feels like if you add it to like everything happening in the current year, you know, it just makes it that much more alarming, because it's like we've had the internet for 20 some odd years now, and we haven't really come that far, have we?
I was going to say, a lot of people have been raised on it.
We don't make it. Humans, I mean.
No, not at all. This is that much more terrifying to see, like how on the fucking nose they were. Even before Google was a thing.
Because like on one hand, the horror and fucked upness of the situation captured us and the in-movie audience. And yet, for the entire lifetime of watching this show's worth of investment those people had in the spectacle, they were still so happy to see him get out. Like, we both are not going to make it and yet there are parts about us that I think are okay.
Which,
Boobs are-
in a weird way, is sort of like a startlingly realistic way to view the world, because
Mhm.
both are
Yeah.
kind of true.
Yeah. Like that's kind of just how I see the world in general, honestly. Like we could be real shitty about a lot of stuff, and yet I do believe that until they're given a reason not to be, most people will be generally good.
Everybody has the capacity.
That vocal minority, though, man.
But, I mean, yeah, it's just some fucking animals out there, and that's just the way it's gonna
Yeah, I
be.
mean, like, why the fuck don't they like the Truman Show? It's a really good show.
It's no, the fact that it doesn't
How will
even
it
take
end?
it never stops.
it
That's
end?
one of the more fascinating things. The fact that they even watch him sleep. Like it's
Yeah,
a
like,
24-hour
literally-
People, yeah,
Remember I
they were like
mentioned
they
Big
people
Brother?
as source of comfort, you know, where it's like,
that's
oh, yeah,
but like that's the fucking weird thing about having like predicting the internet, because there are people who like watching that.
That's
That's
literally
Remember
how
Big Brother, the
Amaranth.
show I mentioned earlier, when they were sleeping, they would do shit like this movie exactly. In fact, I'm pretty sure they just copied what the movie is. Like, oh, that's actually a really fucking good idea.
And
Like that level of psychosis where, remember, you had pictures of him like just at work or whatever, while the Truman Show was showing the interview with Christoph, and you had like the live cam in the corner. So you could watch other shit and not be caught up in the boring, mundane stuff, but you would be able to do it without ever having to not watch. The Big Brother show did that exact fucking shit.
I mean,
in real time.
You say that, by the way. Also, like fucking Amaranth literally like built like a whole career, and like you just never stop watching me.
Yep.
I'm so glad I don't know who these people are that you talk about.
Don't worry about it. You don't.
No,
need to.
yeah, I hate the fact that
Nobody
I even know her
needs to.
fucking name.
Well, unfortunately, everybody does, because she's like one of the biggest streamers fucking ever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And that's why. If you what people always like try and psychoanalyze like what's gonna be the next biggest trend? What's gonna be like the thing? Just think of the stupidest shit you can imagine. That's gonna be the biggest thing.
Mhm.
The thing that's most entertaining to the most people is gonna be the thing that's the most stupid. Because monkey brain go burr.
And Amaranth boobs, and we like boobs.
Well,
Don't
not
you
just
like?
boobs, but parasocial boobs that never have to stop.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
you like
yeah,
watching
man.
a woman sleep and it's like, unless I'm sleeping with her, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
it's like, yeah, I like watching my woman sleep.
Well, therein lies the crux. Unless I'm sleeping with her, which means unless it's a woman I'm like, I have some connection to, I have some investment in, I have a reason to give a shit about her. Well, you've just described her chat.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, there is that weird like cultural
And
thing.
we loop all the way back to parasocial and people watching the Truman Show in the bath.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, that dude had like a whole custom rig for watching TV in the tub.
That dude had
that guy was
setup.
based.
Hold on, he slept in the
battle
tub
station.
too.
I bet he goes to the bathroom with that thing, so he just never has to leave.
Ah,
Actual full proper gamer.
Yeah, like
he had the volume knob like built into the fucking tub.
he's holding on to his like as Truman's holding onto the ropes. He's holding on to like his shower curtain.
Yeah, get up.
Like, hold on, you can do it.
He literally slept while Truman was sleeping in the tub.
Yeah.
And so did that old gay couple, the old ladies.
Yeah.
Why are they gay?
Why are they gay, Slur? Why are they gay?
Come on.
They're just two old
Oh, you're
ladies.
gonna tell me that they're roommates? That they're just
Yes.
real good friends
Yes,
who
because in
happen to live together
America,
and be
old
fair?
people can't afford their own home.
Why are they gay?
Fucking Achilles demanded to like have his ashes buried in the same urn as Patroclus because they were just such good bros. Am I right?
Yeah, like they were 5 feet apart.
That
and
was
it's
his
not gay.
cousin. Okay, I watched Troy.
Oh god.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Somebody's getting
Like
invaded.
actual same mistake that Sailor Moon made. How do you do that?
They make it even worse.
Yeah. So okay, so now they're gay and incestuous.
Incestuous.
Why? Why have you done this thing?
Well,
Now it's easier to dismiss.
exactly. Yeah.
God, I feel like we need a palate cleanser after that. Jesus
That was like,
Christ.
yeah, like there's so much like dark shit to it, and like how like, well, I mean, like we did get a good talk out of it. Like there's
I
a
was
lot of
gonna
broader
say,
cultural implications
yeah,
with everything that is in there.
Palate
So-
cleanser. I almost want to go even further down the rabbit hole.
No, I think we're good.
What, you want to clean your prostate?
You want
What?
to start watching Big Brother?
Oh
What?
god. Andrew Tate's.
Yeah,
You wanna
specifically
watch,
with the
Oh,
Andrew
no.
Tate seasons.
let's
That's what
watch
that's
Andrew
what needs to
Tate
happen.
choke a woman.
Ah.
Ah,
Hey,
damn.
hey,
We'll
not
see.
just a woman.
We'll
his
see. We'll
girlfriend.
see you next week. Bye.
Yeah, guys.
Bye bye. And if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.